Have you ever looked at the news, seen some chart about the economy, and wondered how experts seem to know what's coming next? Well, I'll let you in on a secret. It's not magic. It's a specific set of tools they use to make sense of the world. And today, we're going to open up that toolkit so you can start thinking like an economist too.
So let's start with a question that's very real for a lot of people. Not that long ago, a loaf of bread in Nigeria might have cost you around 800 naira. Now, you're looking at 1,200 naira. Why? I mean, that's a huge jump. This isn't just some number on a screen. It directly impacts what families can afford to eat. Answering questions exactly like this one is what these economic tools are built for.
So how do we actually get from just noticing that the price of bread went up to really understanding why it happened? It all begins with the very first step in any kind of analysis.
Look, before you start thinking about complicated charts or heavy-duty math, it all boils down to this. The heart of economics is just simple curiosity. It's about seeing something happen in the world around you, like the price of bread going through the roof, and just asking, why is that happening? That right there is the starting line.
Okay, so you've asked the question, why? Now you need some facts to work with, right? And that brings us to the first tool in our kit, data. This is how we keep our curiosity grounded in reality. And this is a really big deal, because it's the difference between just having an opinion and doing a real analysis. Anybody can take a guess why bread prices are up. Oh, it's probably the cost of flour, or maybe it's transportation. But without data, that's all it is, a guess. Data is the bridge that takes us from pure speculation over to actually understanding what's going on.
And when we say data, what are we even talking about? It's pretty simple, really. It's just the numbers that tell us what is actually happening. We're talking about real, concrete figures, things like official prices, the unemployment rate, or how many tons of wheat were harvested last year. This is the raw material we need for our analysis.
And this data doesn't just fall out of the sky. It's collected very carefully by official institutions. In many Western countries, you'll hear about the Consumer Price Index, or CPI, which tracks inflation. Here in Nigeria, the go-to source is the National Bureau of Statistics, the NBS. They're the ones putting out the reports on prices and jobs that tell us what's really happening.
All right, so the data tells us what's going on, but it doesn't really tell us why. To get to that why, we need our second tool, the economic model.
Now, don't let the word model scare you off. The idea is actually incredibly simple. Think of it like a map of a city. A map doesn't show you every single parked car or cracked sidewalk, does it? Of course not. It gets rid of all that noise so it can show you the main roads and help you get from point A to point B. An economic model does exactly the same thing for the economy. So here's a super simple model in action. When demand goes up, prices go up. It's a fundamental principle of economics. Now, is it true 100% of the time in every single situation? No, but it's a powerful rule of thumb that gives us a framework, a direction to follow as we try to figure out our bread puzzle.
And at the core of most of these market models, you find these two big opposing forces. Just think about it with our loaf of bread. If the price suddenly dropped, a lot more people would probably decide to buy an extra loaf, right? That's the demand curve. Now flip it. If bakers realize they can sell that same loaf for a much higher price, they're going to be way more motivated to bake more. That's the supply curve.
And this is where it all comes together, right where those two curves cross. That spot is called equilibrium. It's the market's natural sweet spot. It's that perfect price where the bakers are happy to sell the exact same number of loaves that people are happy to buy. It's a balance.
So we have our data and we have our models, but to really make them work together, we need one last tool. And this one is subtle, but it's what lets us think with incredible focus. It's the power of making assumptions.
You might hear economists use this fancy Latin phrase, ceteris paribus. It sounds complicated, but all it means is all other things being equal. The point isn't to pretend the world is actually that simple. It's a mental trick. It allows us to quiet all the other noise for a minute so we can focus on just one relationship at a time.
Let's see how this works. Our question is, how does the price of flour affect the price of bread? To figure that out, we use ceteris paribus. We say, okay, let's just assume for a second that nothing else changes. Bakers' wages stay the same and people's craving for bread stays the same. By freezing all those other moving parts, we get a crystal clear answer. If the price of flour goes up, the price of bread is going to go up. It lets us see cause and effect. All right, so we've got our three core tools: data, models, and reasoned assumptions. We've collected the whole kit. Now for the fun part.
Let's put it all together and see how it helps us solve a real problem.
So let's finally crack our puzzle. First, the data. We know the price shot up from 800 to 1200 naira. Fact. Second, the model. Our supply and demand model tells us that if prices are rising, but people still need to buy bread, it's very likely a supply problem. In this case, maybe the cost of imported flour went up. And finally, our reasoning. This leads us to a logical conclusion. If a supply cost is the issue, then the way to lower prices is to address that cost. Maybe that means finding cheaper flour or boosting local production. See how that works? From a problem to an analysis to a potential solution?
And here's the thing. This way of thinking, data, model, reasoning, it's not just for economists in some ivory tower. This is a powerful framework for anybody. It can help you make smarter decisions in your own business, help you plan your family's budget, or just help you make sense of the headlines. It's a universal toolkit for clearer thinking.
So there you have it, the foundational tools of economic analysis. The next time you see a price change or hear about a new government policy, you'll have a framework to go beyond just noticing it. You'll actually be able to start explaining it. You have the tools now. So the only question is, what will you try to explain first?